All right, let's just jump right in. It's funny, sometimes the biggest, most profound ideas are hidden in these really simple moments. And that's exactly what we're going to look at today. We're diving into this ancient text, where a question that seems totally straightforward, well, it ends up unpacking this incredible truth about how our minds work. And believe me, it's just as mind blowing today as it was thousands of years ago.
So picture this. We're in a monastery. The Buddha gets his monks, his mendicants, all together, and he kicks things off with what sounds, for all the world, like a pop quiz.
He just asks them straight up. Now, this word fetter, what does that even mean? Well, think of it like a shackle, something that literally binds your mind and stops you from being free. So he's really asking, hey guys, you remember those 5 big things that I said hold you back?
And of course, there's always one, right? A monk named Malunkyaputta, he steps right up. He's feeling pretty good about this, you can tell. He's ready to prove he's been doing his homework.
So he reels them off. And honestly, it sounds like a great answer, right? I mean, look at this list. You've got substantialist view, that's basically seeing yourself and the world as this fixed, solid thing. Then doubt, getting obsessed with rules, desire, ill will. I mean, yeah, that sounds like a pretty comprehensive list of what messes us up. But, and this is the big but, was it the right answer? Because here's where it gets really interesting. On the surface, it looks like he nailed it. But the Buddha sees something deeper, a fundamental misunderstanding. And this is where the real teaching kicks in. So instead of just saying, nope, wrong, the Buddha does something genius. He completely reframes the whole idea using this incredible, totally unexpected analogy. It's one that forces everyone to stop and think on a completely different level. This is it. This is the moment everything pivots. He says, well, what about a baby? He challenges the whole room with this simple, brilliant image. Think about it. An infant, a newborn, it doesn't have these complicated thoughts. So how on earth could it be tied up by these fetters?
Exactly. A baby has no idea what a self is, so it can't have a fixed view of it. It doesn't know about precepts or teachings, so it can't have any doubt about them. But, and here's the kicker, the Buddha points out that the potential for all that stuff to show up, well, it's already there, just sleeping, lying dormant inside. And that brings us to the core concept here. This isn't about the thoughts you're aware of. It's not about the beliefs you hold. We're talking about something way, way deeper, an underlying tendency. It's like a tiny seed planted deep in your mind, a preconscious leaning that exists long before it ever grows into an actual full-blown thought or feeling. And realizing this, man, it changes the entire game. Okay, so you might be thinking, so what? What's the big deal? Why does it matter if we call it a fetter or an underlying tendency? Well, this is where it gets super practical. The Buddha lays it all out by comparing 2 very different kinds of people. And this comparison just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got the unlearned person. They might try to deal with their anger or their doubt, the conscious thought, the fetter, but their heart is still, as the text says, overcome and mired. Why? Because that deep down tendency is still there. But the learned disciple, they get it. They see the root of the problem. They don't just put a Band-Aid on the thought, they go deeper and give up both the fetter and that underlying tendency that causes it. So you see, the real work, the path to freedom, it's not just about managing your mood day to day. That's like putting a lid on a pot of boiling water. The real goal is to turn off the stove completely. We're talking about a deep, psychological dig to pull the problem out by the roots.
Right, but how? I mean, how do you even begin to get at something that deep, that fundamental? Well, thankfully, the Buddha gives us another beautiful metaphor. And this one shows us that there's a clear path, a step-by-step process. This isn't some kind of magic trick. It's all about the practice. He says to think of it like cutting down a huge tree. That heartwood in the very center, that's your goal. That's freedom. Now, you can't just teleport to the middle of the tree, right? No, you have to do the work. You have to cut through the outer bark first, then the softwood, layer by layer to get to the core. And the message here is so clear and so powerful. Getting rid of these deep, deep tendencies takes dedication to a specific path. You just can't skip the steps.
There's a practice, a method you have to use to really know, to see, and finally to let go of these 5 lower fetters. Okay, so the tree metaphor shows us the how, the process. But there's another metaphor that's just as important. And this one explains the mindset, the kind of attitude you need to actually walk that path successfully.
So now imagine a raging river. A weak person gets to the edge and they just hesitate. They don't have the confidence, the resolve, so they can't cross. They're stuck. But the strong person, they see that same river and their mind leaps forth. They commit, they build that confidence, and they power through to the other side. That's the kind of energy this practice demands. It's not passive.
So what is the actual practice? Well, the text boils it down to a kind of deep meditation. First, you get your mind incredibly still and quiet. Then, from that very stable, calm place, you start to look at reality as it actually is. You see how everything is changing, how it's not solid, how it's not really you. And then the final step is to actively turn your mind away from all that clinging and towards total freedom. And then, right near the end, another monk, Ananda, asks a really sharp question. He says, look, if the path is the same for everyone, how come some people get free through the heart and others get free through wisdom? And the Buddha's answer is just beautiful. He says it's because of the diversity of their faculties. Basically, we're all different. Our inner wiring is unique. So even though the path is the same, our own personal strengths and weaknesses are going to shape how we walk it. And that's really what this all comes down to for us, right now. This isn't some dusty old philosophical argument. This whole teaching is an invitation to look at your own mind. So I'll leave you with this question. Of those 5 underlying tendencies, that pull towards a solid self, that nagging doubt, getting stuck on rules, that constant desire, or that flash of ill will, which one do you notice running deepest in your own life? Because just asking that question, well, that could be your first step toward that far shore.